You walk around this building and everyone is so supportive and so excited about what is happening with the Fever.
The basketball world has been buzzing ever since a major statement came out of Indianapolis. And finally, Fever general manager Amber Cox broke her silence about CaitlinClark. Her comments were far more than a simple corporate response, as she spoke with honesty and detail that revealed a side of the story most fans had never seen before. Behind the headlines, there's a much deeper reality unfolding inside the organization, and every new detail changes how people view the CaitlinClark era in Indiana. To fully understand the situation, it is important to go back to the beginning, when CaitlinClark was selected as the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft. At that moment, the basketball world already knew her impact after her record-breaking career at the University of Iowa, where she became one of the biggest stars in women's sports history. Millions of fans followed her journey, bought tickets, and supported her in unprecedented numbers. The Indiana Fever were not simply drafting a talented player. They were welcoming an entire movement that brought massive expectations, constant scrutiny, and pressure unlike anything most franchises had ever experienced. While the organization believed it understood the attention surrounding Clark, living through it proved to be a completely different challenge. CaitlinClark delivered an unforgettable rookie season in 2024, averaging 19.2 points and leading the league in assists while helping the Indiana Fever reach the playoffs for the first time in years. She earned WNBA Rookie of the Year honors and was selected to the All-WNBA First Team, proving she was already one of the league's brightest stars. Off the court, her impact was even greater. Jersey sales skyrocketed. Arenas sold out across the country whenever Indiana played, and television networks rushed to place Fever games in primetime slots. Women's basketball was reaching levels of popularity never seen before. Yet behind all the excitement was a 22-year-old superstar trying to handle the pressure of carrying an entire sport on her shoulders while learning life as a professional athlete. Everything seemed ready to come together for the 2025 season with a new coach, an improved roster, experienced veterans, and championship-level expectations. Unfortunately, injuries quickly changed everything. CaitlinClark suffered a left quad injury in May, followed by a left groin injury in June before she had fully recovered. Then, on July 15th, just as she was close to returning, she suffered another groin injury that completely halted her comeback. Soon, fans were left watching her sit on the sidelines in street clothes game after game, as the dream season slowly began slipping away. Fans grew frustrated as criticism became louder with every passing week. Rumors about CaitlinClark's health, the team's communication, and the real situation inside Gamebridge Fieldhouse spread rapidly across social media and sports platforms. Then, on September 4th, the basketball world suddenly stopped to pay attention when Clark officially announced that her season was over. "Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling," she wrote, confirming that her difficult season had come to an end after appearing in only 13 games. While fans focused on the emotional announcement, many failed to realize an even more important message was about to come from Fever general manager Amber Cox. When Cox finally spoke, she did not hide behind corporate language or easy excuses. She made it clear that no player had worked harder to return than CaitlinClark. During exit interviews, Cox explained that Clark pushed herself through rehabilitation every single day because nobody wanted to be back on the court more than she did. Her comments sounded less like an executive protecting a franchise and more like someone who had personally witnessed the emotional and physical struggle behind the scenes. Cox later revealed that Clark spent hours training and recovering in hopes of making a safe comeback, but there simply was not enough time left in the season. As a result, the organization made the difficult decision to shut her down, choosing long-term health over a risky return. However, the most powerful part of Cox's statement was not even about the injuries themselves. It was about what those injuries revealed behind the scenes. The conversation eventually shifted away from injuries and toward the future, and that is where things became truly fascinating. When reporters asked Amber Cox about CaitlinClark's future, she showed no hesitation and avoided the usual vague answers often heard from executives. Instead, she confidently stated that when Clark returns in 2026, fans will witness an entirely new level of greatness. Cox explained it was almost impossible to imagine how much better Clark could become. which is remarkable considering Clark still averaged impressive numbers during an injury-filled 2025 season and earned another All-Star selection despite appearing in only 13 games. Even while sidelined for much of the year, she continued to dominate the national conversation surrounding women's basketball, proving that her influence stretched far beyond the court. According to Cox, Clark has not even reached her full potential yet, and that statement sounded less like public relations and more like a warning to the rest of the WNBA. What made Cox even more confident, however, was not only Clark's talent, but also the way she handled adversity. Unlike many star athletes who disappear from the spotlight during injuries, CaitlinClark remained fully connected to the team. She traveled on every road trip, stayed active on the bench during games, encouraged teammates constantly, and remained emotionally invested in every moment of the season. Cox praised her leadership and commitment, especially during a time when many players might have quietly stepped back from the spotlight. Veteran guard Kelsey Mitchell, who carried much of the offensive responsibility while Clark was injured, also defended the organization's cautious approach. Having dealt with numerous injuries herself, Mitchell explained that protecting Clark's long-term health was always the smartest decision. As the season unfolded, it became increasingly clear that Clark's presence was still shaping the Fever's identity even when she could not play. And the deeper people look inside the locker room, the more they realize the team had developed something special that cannot easily be created: genuine chemistry. Inside the Indiana Fever locker room, a strong sense of chemistry and unity continued to grow despite all the outside noise. Teammates often joked about the close friendship between CaitlinClark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham, a trio fans began calling the Trace Leches. Players also talked about the pre-game rituals Clark still shared with Aaliyah Boston, even while injured, showing how connected she remained to the team. Fever president Kelly Krauskopf later revealed that before the 2025 season began, the young core made one thing very clear to front office. They did not want the organization chasing a massive celebrity signing that could disrupt the chemistry they had built together. Their message was simple: protect the culture they had created. That is not the mindset of a franchise falling apart internally. It is the attitude of a team that understands how special its foundation has become. Still, outside rumors continue to spread. In late 2024, Hall of Famer Sheryl Swoopes sparked controversy after suggesting there was tension inside the Fever organization, and that some players were uncomfortable with the attention CaitlinClark brought to the team. Her comments quickly exploded across social media and became one of the biggest debates in women's basketball. However, the controversy began to lose credibility when Swoopes admitted she was not actually inside the locker room and had no direct evidence to support her claims. No Fever player publicly backed the story either. CaitlinClark eventually addressed the rumors herself during a March Madness broadcast in 2025, explaining that only the people inside the organization truly understood what was happening behind closed doors. She hinted that much of the criticism came simply because people were uncomfortable watching others succeed. As the season continued, the Fever's performance without Clark spoke louder than any rumor or headline ever could. Even without their superstar on the floor, Indiana captured the WNBA Commissioner's Cup, defeated the Atlanta Dream in the playoffs, and pushed the powerful Las Vegas Aces to a dramatic Game 5 before losing in overtime. The team came within one win of reaching its first WNBA Finals in more than a decade. Throughout that entire run, Clark remained fully engaged on the sidelines, constantly cheering, directing teammates, and celebrating every moment like she was playing herself. Her leadership was no longer just a compliment from management. It had become visible in the team's energy, confidence, and resilience. By the end of the season, it was clear that the Fever were not simply planning for a comeback in 2026. Amber Cox and the organization believed they were building something much bigger, a potential dynasty for the future. The whole offseason was condensed into a few weeks due to protracted talks between the WNBA and the Players' Union, which lasted for more than a year before being settled in early 2026. League rosters were altered by expansion drafts for the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo, two new teams. Cox remained calm despite the Fever losing 2 players in the process. From the end of the season to each subsequent roster change, her message remained constant: keeping Kelsey Mitchell in a Fever uniform is their first objective. "I'm going to sound like a broken record from last year," Cox said to reporters. Keeping Kelsey Mitchell in a Fever jersey will be the top focus. With Mitchell back in the mix and CaitlinClark and Aaliyah Boston already under contract, Indiana has the makings of the league's most complete core going into the upcoming campaign. Even still, it wasn't a headline that caused the basketball community to recoil. Even Amber Cox was ecstatic when CaitlinClark appeared as a special contributor on Basketball Night in America, with icons like Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady. This will be highly entertaining and insightful. Cox posted on social media, "Tuck CC comes naturally to me." Sam Flood, an executive producer for NBC, referred to Clark as the most legendary figure in basketball, not women's basketball or collegiate basketball. Completely stop. Even before the 2026 WNBA season begins on May 8th, Clark is now working on that platform. Additionally, Clark didn't hesitate to respond when questioned about the Fever's chances of winning the championship on that NBC platform. "I think we're going to be the favorite to win it all," she replied. "It adds a little pressure in my opinion, but that's what you enjoy about it. However, our team, coach, and support staff are all excellent. I'm very excited." That response wasn't shaped by the media. That person was watching from the sidelines for an entire season, building in silence, stewing in desire, and now she was prepared to let loose everything she had been suppressing. And Cox's faith in the appearance of that CaitlinClark? The rest of the WNBA finds the entire situation worrisome. Because of this, when you take a step back and give a clear view, this is what the entire image tells you. Amber Cox didn't only speak up to ease the anxiety of her fans or deal with the negative publicity following a disappointing season. She spoke up because she has seen firsthand what this player is capable of, experienced the turmoil of the spotlight, dealt with the rumors and controversy, kept the locker room cohesive when injuries struck from all sides, and emerged from the experience more certain than ever that CaitlinClark hasn't yet reached her full potential. The teammates have witnessed it. It has been stated by the coach. It has been verified by the GM. And now, as the team enters the 2026 season with a deeper roster, genuine hunger, and a complete year of hardship to hone them into something more dangerous and challenging, whether the rest of the WNBA is genuinely prepared for what is about to occur is the only unanswered question. Because the version of CaitlinClark that appears in May 2026 won't resemble anything the league has ever seen if Amber Cox is correct, as the evidence points to. And the teams that have been skeptical of this team for the past year may want to consider carefully if they are ready for what it truly entails. The basketball community cannot stop discussing a comment that was made in Indianapolis. At last, Amber Cox, general manager of the Fever, spoke up. Furthermore, her remarks on CaitlinClark went beyond a corporate press release. It was direct, unvarnished, and full of details that paint a picture that most fans have never seen. Beyond what you've read in a headline, there is more to the truth about what's actually happening inside that business. So, hold on, because this is a multi-layered story that will alter your perception of the CaitlinClark era in Indiana. Let's go back to the beginning of this whole issue before we even discuss what Cox said. Nobody could have predicted what would happen as CaitlinClark, the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, stepped off the stage. The world of basketball was already aware. The most viral athlete in women's sports history, record-breaking attendance at Iowa, and millions of people purchasing tickets and jerseys. The Fever were taking over a movement rather than merely selecting a player. Along with that movement came expectations, scrutiny, and pressure that most franchises never had to deal with. The front desk was aware of this, but there's a big difference between knowing something in principle and really experiencing it. In 2024, Clark had an incredible debut season. She led the